As a PhD in nutritional sciences, one of the most common questions I get asked is, hey, what's the best diet for weight loss? And while this may seem like a very straightforward question, the answer is pretty complicated if you want to dig into the details, but in general is actually quite simple. So what I mean by that is if we look at the body of research on various different diets, if we look at them in terms of long-term weight loss, so more than a year, there was a meta-analysis of like 14 different popular diets that was done a few years back. And they looked at all these different popular diets and their effects on long-term weight loss. And what they basically found was there was no difference between these diets. They were all kind of equally bad at facilitating long-term weight loss. Part of that is because people do a diet rather than trying to make a new lifestyle, which is so critically important. We know from successful weight loss maintainers and studies of their habits and behaviors that one of the biggest factors for long-term success is literally changing your life, creating a new lifestyle, habit, behaviors. That is the most important aspect of this. And that is all done to facilitate adherence. Because we know from these studies, even though none of these diets are better than others long-term for weight loss, when they stratify participants based on their level of adherence, what they find is regardless of diet type, there is a linear effect of adherence on weight loss, meaning the more adherent you are, the more weight you lose. The best diet for you is the diet that you can best adhere to. And that may look different for different people. For me, I do flexible dieting and I like kind of a balanced diet. I like to be able to pick foods from different food groups. If I'm having a fattier meal, I like to be able to accommodate it. If I'm having a higher carb meal, I like to be able to accommodate it. Or the mix of both, obviously. Some people, they like low carb way better. They say, I don't feel hungry. It feels easy for me. Some people like time-restricted eating. They say, I'm not hungry during my fasting periods, and then during my feeding period, I feel really satisfied. It still keeps me in a calorie deficit. Again, great tools to facilitate weight loss. Behavior change is very hard to facilitate no matter what we're talking about. Because it is so difficult. And if you want to lose weight, you have to implement some form of restriction, no matter what you do. Whether it be a dietary restriction like low carbohydrate or low fat, whether it be a time restriction like time-restricted eating, or whether it be a tracking restriction like flexible dieting and tracking your macros, there has to be some form of restriction. But you can choose the form of restriction that feels the least restrictive for you as an individual and understand that it doesn't necessarily apply to others. That is where the individual variability in diet really seems to be, which is what trips that compliance algorithm in people's heads where they feel like a diet is something they can make into a lifestyle. They feel like this is something they can do in perpetuity. Because of the diet you're on, if you can't see yourself doing it in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 5 years, the research shows you're going to put that weight back on because you're not going to be able to facilitate a long-term lifestyle change. And that is why Carbon does not pigeonhole you into any one style of diet. We don't tell you how many meals you've got to eat per day. We don't tell you, hey, you've got to do a balanced diet or a Mediterranean, or you've got to do low carb, or you've got to do low fat. We give you options that span the gamut. Plus, the ability to go in within individual options and still shimmy the macros a little bit towards what you personally prefer while still getting all the results. And if you want to eat 7 meals a day, you can eat 7 meals a day. If you want to eat 2 meals a day, you can eat 2 meals a day. Carbon allows for that flexibility. They also allow for the flexibility to change your calories day to day so that you can facilitate higher calorie days on days when you want more flexibility, lower calorie days perhaps on days when you have more control over everything. Or if you have an oopsie, you can put it into the diet planner and it will adjust your remaining days automatically without you having to do the math yourself. So Carbon is built around the idea of maximizing adherence because maximal adherence is going to produce maximal fat loss and the ability for you to keep it off. So again, it's not the sexy answer a lot of people want, but the best diet is the one that you can adhere to, and that is why Carbon gives you maximum flexibility for your dietary preference.